Weekend Mornings with Glenn Van Zutphen on Money FM 89.3.
Welcome back to Weekend Mornings here on Money FM 89.3. Glenn Van Zutphen and Neil Humphreys with you until, well, where are we with you until noon today? Yeah, there we go. We had a little bit of Doobie Brothers sneaking in on us. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Neil, I'm so excited. Our next guest, we are really excited to have with us Alvin Tan, the Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, Ministry of Trade and Industry. Minister Tan, welcome to Weekend Mornings here on Money FM. Can you hear us, Minister Tan?
I can hear you, Glenn. Neil, can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, we can. Looks like you are at a hawker having your breakfast.
It's an early start to the morning. I just introduce you to one of the best hawker centres in Singapore. It's Pek Kio Hawker Centre. We started early this morning, so forgive me if the connection isn't that good. But I thought if we're going to talk about community and volunteerism, where else better to start or to be at than a hawker centre, quintessential Singaporean.
Absolutely, and that is the perfect place to be, especially on a Saturday morning, having your breakfast and having something to eat. And let's talk a little bit about. There you go. You got your kosong. All right, beautiful. Let's talk about first. Let's take a look back to this past year in COVID, and when you think about how Singapore has handled it, we're now increasing our vaccinations now, going up to 59 years old, 45 to 59. What is your look back at the past year and the things that we've done in Singapore to get through the pandemic?
Well, Glenn, Neil, it has been a difficult year. I think it has been just over a year when one of our first cases happened about 3 weeks to the year ago. It's obviously been very tough for everyone. What I've said before is that there have been many different curveballs in this pandemic, and the way that people and governments handle it, you can see across the world, it's been very different. But we are not resting in any way, shape, form, or manner on our laurels. I think the battle is long drawn. We just started, as you mentioned, vaccinations. We are, I know both of you talked about that earlier, it's actually 45 to 59, where we just opened up. We're a little bit ahead. We're a little bit ahead of the curve, so I think that's good to know. But we're also quite concerned because of different virulent strains. The ones in the UK, South Africa and Brazil, and of course vaccine supply to play as well. So watch out for the curveball, prepare when required.
Yeah, we're just losing you for a second there, Minister Tan. Hopefully your connection will come back. But yes, I heard what you were saying. We need to look out for the curveball, more virulent strains coming through in different parts of the world. The British strain, the Brazilian strains. We're seeing potentially a third wave now in Europe, so we need to keep an eye on that. But I wanted to just, as we're talking about volunteerism anyway and the COVID, just this week, Minister, I was at the Sengkang Polyclinic, and I just think we should give a shout out to the Singaporeans, the volunteers, the workers, the nurses. They were managing the vaccines. They were managing the queues. It's a tough job, a sweaty job. They were working outside. They were marshalling the queues. And I just think that in the last year or so, I did some volunteerism myself at Sengkang CC. Just the work of the Singaporeans, volunteers, regulars, nurses, doctors, has just been phenomenal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's really one of the silver linings emanating from COVID-19. Neil, you were at Sengkang. I think this is a scene that's replicated across the country. Here in Pek Kio CC also, we've had a lot of volunteers helping our seniors who may not be able to go on to buses, for example, or to get to the vaccination centres. They've helped went door to door to knock, explain the vaccination process, and then physically bring them to the nearest one, which is at Jalan Besar CC. And if you've seen, we have youngsters, we have nurses, we have community leaders all coming together. I think, beyond COVID, I think some of the lasting positive impacts, I think, will hopefully last with us for some time. Like your experience at Sengkang.
Yeah, we're speaking with Minister of State Alvin Tan, also Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, Ministry of Trade and Industry. And Minister Tan, one of the initiatives that I know you're passionate about is the Mentoring Alliance for Action and Mentoring Volunteerism. You, I believe, just launched that just the other day here in Singapore. Tell us more about that Mentoring Alliance. Is this just to get more people into understanding how to be volunteers?
Yeah, Glenn, I'm glad you raised this. In fact, we launched it. It was the 20th Alliance for Action in Singapore. And just to keep it very simple, Alliance for Action is effectively like the Avengers coming together, but the Avengers include people, our private sector, social enterprises, government together. But to use Neil's more familiar vernacular, it's like a football team. And everybody plays, different roles, midfield, flanks, goalkeeper, striker, attacker. And we are all basically trying to attack the same problem together. But all of us have different, maybe Neil is fast on the flanks, or maybe he used to be fast on the flanks, but somebody else in the midfield, just coming together to tackle a problem. And the problem that we're trying to solve for is about mentoring. And mentoring is, and I deeply believe in this, I'm a recipient and still a recipient of mentoring, and I also believe in giving and being a mentor to others. And currently in this COVID climate, our youth, I think, are doing two things. They're receiving mentoring and also giving mentoring. But it's not enough. Only our National Youth Council report only showed that about 11% of youth in Singapore have undergone any form of formal mentoring. And what this mentoring alliance is meant to do is to raise the awareness of mentoring, so that youth know that they can go to mentoring and it's not a stigmatized experience. But the second is that we've seen a lot of new mentoring organizations pop up in Singapore. So what we're trying to do, Neil and Glenn, is to organize them together and see how we can, number one, raise awareness of mentoring, raise the level of mentoring and quality of mentoring. And then as a youth, if I want to go through, I open this door, then I look at all the different mentoring opportunities on offer at every different stage of my life. If I were a young youth or a middle-aged youth or a more advanced in age youth, I can go in and there's a handoff. So the Alliance for Action Mentoring aims to do just that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, Mr. Tan, I think it's wonderful stuff. Thank you also for reading my football columns. I think it's very important to mention that. And I did volunteering myself when I was a teenager. I do think it was life-changing because it gives you a different perspective on the way other people live their lives. And as you are the Minister for MCCY, you've also got this SG Cares movement, which I'm very interested in because it's a big push to expand volunteerism, as you mentioned there. Now, as I understand it, you currently aim to have an SG Cares volunteer centre in all 24 towns in Singapore. Currently it's 12, so that effectively means you're going to double it. How are you going to do that? And look, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, maybe you could explain what actually is an SG Cares volunteer centre, what are its roles, and how maybe they can get involved.
Neil, well, first of all, thank you for being an active volunteer. What the Volunteer Centre does, and the plan for the Volunteer Centre, as you rightly mentioned, we already have 12. The plan for the Volunteer Centre is because you have a good supply of volunteers. And I have done this for about 16, 17 years in the community in Chinatown, and particularly the Jalan Krupuk community, just on the outskirts of Chinatown near SGH. And there are many, many well-meaning volunteer welfare organizations that come to help, serve in the community. But then we also see that there is a need for coordination. So what we're trying to do is to make it easier, so you don't have to. When I was volunteering there, people asked, I had maybe 10, 11 of these different volunteer welfare organizations coming in. Can I help? Right? And then, or some of them go on their own, and then you have duplication of efforts. You maybe have too many of a certain goodie bags for a household, for example. And so there's a wastage. What these volunteer centers are meant to do is to identify a volunteer organization within these communities, designate them as a volunteer center or create one volunteer center, so that all of these well-meaning volunteer welfare organizations and volunteers like yourself, can come in. And when we distribute or we organize and coordinate the outreach, it is in a more coordinated manner. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve.
We're in conversation with Minister of State Alvin Tan, and Minister Tan, is there an element of volunteerism that is missing in Singapore? Is there some element that we need to double down on, in addition to increasing the number of volunteerism centers, the SG Care centers, for example? But is there? It seems like there are a lot of volunteers in Singapore. Is there some element that you've recognized that we need to do better at, that we need to do more of?
Yeah, there's always room for improvement. I think we are at the early stages. I think Gillian Koh of IPS mentioned something which I thought was quite illuminating for me. She said, we used to be followers, then we became petitioners, and now we want to be partners along this journey. And so I think in the early days, you're following because you're building up the country, and then after that, people have many ideas. So these are effectively petitioners. And now Singaporeans want to be partners. And so I think we are still journeying along this continuum, as it were. But there are two challenges, I think. One is to raise the awareness of volunteerism. And as Neil mentioned, all these volunteer centers will help to, number one, raise it and make it easier. But the second is also whether people have the mindset of volunteerism, which I think over time it will be developed. COVID-19, I have personally experienced that there is an acceleration of cause-based volunteerism. So just about a few hundred meters from here, I have a group of youngsters, and youngsters and folks from all different ages now planting and greening our Cambridge Road area right now. And that's, you identify a cause, you build and people will come. So mental health, sustainability and green, and I'm on the ground right here today. I see it before my eyes. So identify a cause which resonates and it's important to people, and then you see it coming up and you see them coming in droves even.
That is the positive change, Minister Tan, isn't it? I mean, in the 25 years that I've been here, you can definitely see an upswing in volunteerism. From everything from beach cleanups, they have more volunteers than they can handle, cleaning up Singapore's beaches and mangroves every weekend, tree planting initiatives you mentioned there, helping out at food centres, packaging foods, which my daughter gets involved with from time to time. So there are many people listening right now who are volunteers or who would like to be volunteers. What tips or advice would you give those people?
Yeah, well, I would give one that is, I'll give a few maybe, but I'll keep it short. One is just start. It's a Saturday, you can find time. Bring your kids along if you are a busy parent like myself and Neil as well. Bring them in, help them to teach them how to plant a tree, for example, or to deliver food to folks in the community. So I think just start. And we are making it easier as well. We mentioned the volunteer centers, the 12 that are already in operation at 24. We're going to double it. But then there's also, for those of you who are more technologically inclined, download the SG Care apps. There will be opportunities. There's like a menu on your app to see where there are volunteer opportunities close by to you and near you.
Wonderful.
And Minister Tan, I think you touched on something that's really important, and Neil mentioned it as well, and that is not just volunteering ourselves, but getting our children involved and having them see their parents model that volunteer spirit. And I know you are very passionate about that with your family as well. And some of the opportunities, I mean, there are many out there that can be appropriate to all age levels around Singapore, correct?
Indeed, and there are many. We have during I think the last couple of months as well have been with our youngsters, our parents and their children before the Chinese New Year with one of my rental blocks just behind here, and they were just helping to put together new beds for our residents together with their youngsters. And I think it just opens up this comes to build that community spirit in them. I think it's very healthy and very encouraging.
That's fantastic. Minister Tan, anything else on your mind today you'd like to bring up? You're in the Hawker Centre, you're having your kopi, you're seeing people around you getting out and starting the day. What else is on your mind when you look around Singapore these days?
Yeah, I worry, Glenn and Neil, because I think COVID-19 is going to be a long-drawn affair. I don't think we're going back to anything as normal as we can expect for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years, depending on how the vaccines are rolled out and how the virulence trends are affecting our communities. But there's always silver lining, and we always look for opportunities in crisis. And I think today we talked about community and we talked about volunteerism. I think these are starting to be accelerated here in Singapore, and we are starting to plant these seeds early, and we're already seeing some of them germinate. I think it will be good because, I always wear my MTI hat, which is the trade and industry hat, and I've been talking a lot about jobs and the economy. And so I get to use the other side of my brain this morning. We talk about something that is more important in that regard. I mean, you need to have both, but it's the heart, right? And NCCY, we always talk about being the heart of the nation. Yes, all the economic stuff is important, but the heart and how we emerge from this crisis stronger through heart is just as important, if not maybe more important, than the economic and the jobs piece. So, I started by saying that there will be many curveballs, so we just have to get ready, and I think we have the skill sets now, or building the skill sets to take on the new curveballs.
Absolutely.
But Mr. Tan, just finally, isn't that the silver lining for me of COVID-19, the rise of volunteerism and also a changing mindset, really? I mean, this has really been the year for the Singaporean people. I see Singaporeans now exploring our neighbourhood estates, exploring our green spaces, exploring environmentalism, doing cleanups, helping the communities, helping migrant workers during lockdown. I see a positive shift, if you like, towards volunteerism, towards helping your fellow resident, fellow community member. And I think that's possibly the silver lining to take away from COVID-19. What would be your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. And you just reminded me, Neil, of just a shout out to TIFA and its Winning Vehicles team and many of the others like HealthServe that have opened our eyes to our migrant workers in and around the community. I have had 2 dorms in my constituency, and we had our school children, our community. I think in the past, just to be very, very candid about this, there has been a NIMBY syndrome, and not in my backyard syndrome. But I think as some of these issues start to surface, you'll see that people are going to be more welcoming and more community-minded. And I think that's good for Singapore. Glenn, you mentioned something. If you don't mind, I'm going to do a plug because Neil reminded me, and that is the Singapore Rediscovers. Please use your Singapore Rediscovers vouchers before 30th of June. We've seen a lot of communities volunteers also bringing our seniors and helping them to use these vouchers to visit places. And we have many. We always think that you need to go out of Singapore. But I just visited Kampong Lorong Buangkok. Our last kampong in Singapore.
The last one,
cycling past it last week.
Yeah.
There you go. It's near Sengkang. Yeah. So there are many places to discover, and you can even bring our seniors, make it a community an outing, and I think they will enjoy it. Bring back memories for them.
You took the seniors to the Buangkok Kampong, did you say? That's fantastic.
No, I was doing a filming there, and I met with the Chun Zhang, the village chief, as well. And so we are trying to encourage folks to also go and visit places like the Buangkok Kampong as well.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Minister Tan, thank you so much, Minister. Oh, indeed. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up this whole notion of volunteerism, of mentoring, which is so important. I know not only in your life, as you mentioned, but in the lives of so many young people and even middle-aged and older people as well. Minister of State Alvin Tan, Minister of Culture, Community and Youth, Ministry of Trade and Industry, thank you so much for being with us on Money FM Weekend Mornings.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Glenn.
Have a great day.
Have a wonderful
yes. Sorry, your Kopi is probably cold by now. You may have to get a top up, but thank you.
There you go. I will. Bye.
Cheers. All right. Thanks so much. Yeah.